the dough that was rolled. And what I do with what I trim off, I put in the dough that's sitting, waiting for the next roll, so I don't waste any dough. And I just work that in. And again, let that sit. In the meantime, my first batch is ready to come out of the oven, which I want to show you because a lot of times they're not quite ready. So I'm going to slowly move this way so you can see what the cookies coming out of the oven look like. And I apologize, I lost my towel. Okay. Pardon my vertigo here. And this is the first tray of cookies at 350. I'm looking at them and thinking I could probably go another 2 minutes on these. They just appear to need just a little bit more. So I'm going to close this up, put the timer on for another 2 minutes, and we're going to go back and cut the dough and start rolling another batch of cookies. Pardon while I readjust the camera. Oh. Okay, so hopefully you can see this well. And what I'm going to do is try to cut about a 2-inch square. Now this is a little bigger up here. I may just trim off just a little portion of this to put that back in there. This is where I'm really bad and where my baking leaves much to be desired, in that there is no consistency. So if somebody wants to invent something that will, you know, like a grid, I can just lay on here and cut it right apart. As you can see, some of these will be bigger, some will be smaller, and some will go back in. Now, what I am going to show you here, and pardon my hand, is I'm going to show you how I fill 2 different types of cookies, a nut and a apricot. The apricot, there's nothing you can do but put it in with your finger. I put some on the spoon and it'll just come on over here and dab it in. Again, how much it's going to be in each one is, I wish I could give you a measurement. It's not quite a whole teaspoon. Now, my timer went off, so I'm going to go pull the cookies out and show you what they look like. Okay, so here's a tray of cookies. And you can see that there's like sugar crusted around them from baking. But what I'll do is I will let these cool for at least 5 minutes before I remove them from the tray. All that crusty stuff will eventually just break off when they cool. And you can reuse the parchment paper. I use the parchment paper. I found that that's much better for them to bake on. So while those are cooling, I'm going to start to roll this next one. And again, I'm using the apricot filling on some of these so you can see, and then I'm going to use my nut filling on the other. I have to rinse my hands from the apricot. Now you can use any kind of fillings that you would want on these. Let me go back to this nut first. And this is weird because this nut is very thick. That's the way you want it. So what I do is I kind of take a spoonful and then take almost like a little line. Take some off. And you can actually work with this nut a little bit easier because it's so thick. And just lay a little line down. And you try to guess the proportions to the size of the cookie that you have. I hope this is viewable. But anyway, getting back to the fillings, I remember Grandma would make, not of course, apricot, Leckfire, and then she'd also sometimes buy in the store, in the jars in the baking aisle, there would be like raspberry or pineapple. She never really made like a strawberry, but I guess whatever kind of filling you would like, you can use on the inside. So, again, your preference, your taste. You know, the dough will work with any filling. And I apologize for the fingers here, but that's the way we do it. And then I rinse my hands again so I can roll the cookies. Now, I'm going to roll. I'm going to move some of these over so you can see a little bit better. These are the nuts. Now, what I do, this is just what I do. I like take at each corner and fold it in. If you can see that. Each corner fold it in and then roll from there. You can also stretch a little bit the dough. And then you roll it and you're going to pinch. I don't know if you can see this well enough, but I'm like pinching the doughs, the open end to the dough wherever it stops. Kind of turning it over. You roll it again in sugar and place it on the tray. I'll do another nut. This one's a little thicker, so I'm going to just stretch that one a little bit first. Tuck your corners in. That kind of keeps your filling in a little bit better. And then roll and pinch. Because the nut's so much thicker, it's easier to work with the nuts than it is the other fillings, and I'll show you because I'm going to do an apricot now. Let's do one of these. Also on the nut, if you feel like you've gotten too much filling in there, you can take a little bit out. On the apricot, those other ones, it's a little harder. So there I've kind of tucked my corners in, roll. They're almost rolling it to me like almost like a stuffed cabbage. Pinch and roll in sugar. And again, sometimes you get these cockeyed ones that don't look so good. This one's a little cockeyed and a little misshapen. but I guess that's what I've always known in my life in cold dough cookies. But I at least wanted to show you the two types of fillings and how I roll them. And of course, I'm going to just reiterate that temperatures for 350 for 15 minutes. I'll honestly tell you, most times they go 17 for me. Now, I did this one a little differently. So it has like the corner on it. And again, you just want to pinch that into the dough. I want to make sure I keep my apricots and nuts separate. Oops, I lost that filling there. So I'll let you watch here if you can. I'm trying to do this so you can see the roll and then the pinch. And the roll and sugar. And I guess you can see from the two videos I've done so far, unfortunately, as good as these cookies are, they just take forever. Or at least I think they do. I think it's just trying to get this dough rolled out and get it rolled consistently. But again, I'm not very good on the consistency. I put on my Christmases this year an attachment for my KitchenAid mixer for a pasta roller. And I'm wondering if I couldn't roll the dough through the pasta attachment so that it would all be a consistent thickness. So that may be the next thing I try, and we'll see if that works. If not, you're all coming to Pittsburgh to help me make cookies for the wedding. Because Jill says she wants the biggest cookie table in the world. So, how's that for something you didn't know? And not just cold doughs, so. Okay, one more. Now I'm only working with 3 cookie trays, so I'll put this one aside. And I have to wait for the other 2 to cool off. But I can start working this dough again. Remember, I squared it up with the edges. So I'll start working this dough again and rolling again for the next batch. Now, this one I might have had sitting out a little longer than it should have. And it's a little warmer, so even though it makes it sometimes easier to roll, because it's a little warmer, it also makes it more difficult. I know that doesn't make sense, but in a way it does. So I'll begin rolling this one in a few minutes. I'm going to take those cookies off of the